morning, good afternoon, good evening. Happy Sunday, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. It's just gone 1 p.m. here in the UK, and it's very overcast. It's warm, but it's overcast here in Northern England. So I'm going to talk about the Karen Reid case today. Now, I don't talk about the Karen Reid case very often. I follow it. I watch everything to do with Karen Reid, but I don't talk about the case very often. I don't know how many of my viewers actually follow the case, and those that do maybe don't watch the stuff that I put out on my channel. I don't think I make it into the algorithm like with this case, probably because I don't talk about it enough. Well, there you go, it's a catch-22. But I want to talk to you today about a little rabbit hole I went down this morning. Having seen a Twitter post. And I spent almost the entire morning looking for information on this. So I found that information. So we're going to talk about it. But first, Aussie TV, thank you for gifting 5 memberships. That's very, very kind of you. We've got Cool Whip, Citizen Sleuth, Trixie's Creations, Criminal Med, and M's in Crabbing World. Thank you, Ozzy, and welcome you 5 if you've never been a member before. I've seen your name, a couple of you, I've seen your names on the members list before, so you may know that we've got a big members area. We've got all sorts of stuff. If you've never been a member before, go and check it out. We've got members lives. We've got little videos. We've got status updates. We've got bloopers. So, yeah, we've got all sorts. So, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And hello, everybody. We've got JD in the house. We've got Karen. We got Rexy. Cool Whip, who's just got a membership. Broken Golf Doll. We've got Canoni's Baloney. Jadzia, that's a great name. We got Alpha. We got Tammy. We got Smarty. Purple Lady. Good morning to you. We got Dawn. Hello, Mike. Who else have we got? Bruin McNeil. Cece. Patrice Change. Follow it closely. So do I. I don't talk about it that I just don't talk about it that often. Yeah, that's the thing. I think that's what happens with a lot of people. I'm the same. Like, there's certain cases I don't follow that are really popular because I don't have the headspace to learn it from the beginning. So we all have to limit what we follow and what we don't. So I understand that. Totally do. Mom to an angel. Yeah, Heather Feather. Who else have we got in? We got Sauce Squatch. We got Katie Bugaboo. Rambling Rome. Hello to you. Angie Baby. Hello. Good afternoon to you. Hello, Sue and Jackie. And I think we're right down at the bottom. Right down. Yeah, we are right down at the bottom. Got too emotionally involved in Richard Allen's case. Well, it's tragic. That one's tragic. That one is tragic. And some of what I'm going to talk about today is actually relevant to Delphi. So stay tuned. I think there's some of what was discussed at Karen Reid's first trial that I didn't pick up on that is very relevant to Libby's sworn data. It only, like, the cogs started whirring this morning because I went down the rabbit hole. My cogs were going, and I thought, I watched every minute of Karen Reid's first trial, and I never picked up on this, and I've never, because I didn't pick up on it, I've not been able to apply it to Delphi, but now I will. So maybe I'll talk about that tomorrow. The black boxes with the numbers besides names. Right, well, if you remember, then you get a custom emoji by your name. So if you're a brand new member, you're a noob, And then it goes up like 1 to, I can't remember the numbers, 6 to 12, 12 to 18. When you get to 24 months, then you're an OG. So it's just the emojis for members, just to say how long you've been a member. That's all. That's all it is. Whoa, Purple AJ gifted 10 memberships too. Really? Where? Really were? Really were? I've not got that. Oh, yes I do. Yes I do. Thank you so much, Purple AJ. Thank you, thank you. Too busy yakking. Too busy yakking to realise. Thank you so much, Purple AJ. All right, let's have a look who we've got. So that's 15 new members already. We've not even started the live properly. We got Smarty, Karen R, Gertie, Evelyn, Jennifer Lynn. Let's have a look. Carmen, Electro, Dog Defender, Joanne B. I think that's it. Maybe there's one more. No, that's it. Thank you so much, Purple AJ. You're yet another superstar. And welcome you all. Go and check out the members area. I do recognise some of your names, so I know some of you have been members before. But if you haven't, go and start from the top. We've got all sorts in the members area now. All sorts. Let's see what Karen is actually charged with, please. She's charged with second-degree murder, manslaughter. So if the jury don't want to go with second-degree murder, they can go with manslaughter. She's also charged with leaving the scene of a car accident. So at the first trial, we found out from the jury that they actually found her not guilty of second-degree murder and leaving the scene, like willfully leaving the scene. But they were hung on manslaughter. But they didn't know how to communicate that to the judge. They thought that they had to like take all 3 charges, and then there's a lot of lesser offences within those charges. They had to take them all as a whole. So they had to agree on all of them. And it's a tragic miscommunication, because it now means that Karen is in double jeopardy. Even though this has gone to appeal, Karen has appealed to have the 2 charges that the jury have said, in their deliberations, they all decided she wasn't guilty, because they didn't write it down, because they didn't fill it out on the jury, the forms that they give to the judge, because they didn't fill it out, not guilty. It's not classed as double jeopardy. So she's going into a second trial facing 2 charges that the first jury found her not guilty of. And it was the miscommunication, like the misunderstanding of the jury and the jury instructions that weren't clear enough. So it's tragic. She should be facing the second trial, which is due to start on April the 1st, with just 1 charge, manslaughter. So we'll see. This case is very scary. Yeah, it is. Wasn't there a DUI charge? No, there wasn't. Because they could only estimate her alcohol level. They didn't test her alcohol level until I think it was like 9 o'clock in the morning or something. So they could only estimate it. So no, she hasn't been charged with DUI. It was leaving the scene. There was a DUI. I don't think there was. I think it's leaving the scene. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up. What is current? Oh, okay. It's that's all in the manslaughter. So it's not a DUI. It's manslaughter whilst under the influence of alcohol. So it's got specific wording. So yeah, it is. It is included. According to CBS. Federal judges denied Karen Reid's request to delay state trial, blah, blah, blah. The charges. Okay. So Reid's pled not guilty to all 3 charges: second-degree murder, leaving the scene of bodily injury or death, and manslaughter under the influence of alcohol. So that one, that third one, manslaughter under the influence of alcohol, that's the one that the jury were hung on. So it wasn't operating a motor vehicle whilst under the influence of alcohol. It's causing the death of somebody whilst under the influence of alcohol. So in the UK, you don't get done for manslaughter if you cause the death of someone while you're drunk. It's causing death by drunken revelry or whatever. I don't remember what the exact name is. Okay. It was operating. No, well, if you go and find the charge sheet. One of the lesser ones, because within that manslaughter, there was a bunch of lessers as well. So maybe somewhere in those lessers, there was one operating a motor vehicle while drunk. Is there sound? Yes. There is sound, yes. There is sound. So that's according to CBS. So if you want to look what I've just read from, it's this. So there's a pre-trial hearing this week. And the trial starts on April the 1st. So this is what the rabbit hole was that I went down. You don't hear anything, Elf. Elf, you need to turn your volume up. You're not going to hear me, are you? Because you can't hear. Okay. Elf, turn your volume up. Oh, I'm logged in as Michelle Walks over on YouTube. All right. Okay. So this is the rabbit hole. Just happened to see this while I was browsing Twitter. Don't know who this person is. Look the other way. I did repost it if you want to go and read it again. I thought it was interesting. Hank just proved Karen's innocence. So Hank Brennan is the special prosecutor that they brought in for the second trial. Rabbit hole alert. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Adam Lally, the first prosecutor. Oh, I'm afraid we're going to have to listen to a little bit of Adam Lally in a minute. He's so boring. So boring. I mean, the trial lasted weeks because Adam Lally was so repetitive and so boring. But anyway, they've brought in Hank Brennan, who is I don't like him. I don't like him. He's a liar. He's been proven to lie. He just is. And I just can't deal with him. I can't deal with him. All right. Hank Brennan claimed in court. So this was just a couple of days ago. So there was 2 days of pre-trial hearings this week just gone. And there's another one on Tuesday. So this is a timeline of what was found on John O'Keefe's phone. So John O'Keefe was at the time Karen Reid's boyfriend. So for those who don't know the case, here's what happened. They were all drinking. They were all drinking at the Waterfall Bar and Grill. So this is Canton, Massachusetts. The Waterfall Bar and Grill is just down here. Waterfall Bar and Grill. Right down here. So they were drinking here. And there's a whole bunch of them. John O'Keefe, Karen, and then some people that John knew. The Alberts and the McCabe's were there. A few other people. And John and Karen got invited back to 34 Fairview Road, which is here. Just 5 minutes away. 5 minutes away. Less than 2 miles. Well, if you weren't the direct route, far less than 2 miles. Once the bar kicked them out. So they left the bar at 12 minutes past 12 on the 29th of January, 2022. So 12 minutes past 12 a.m. All right, so they were there drinking. They were all drinking. They were all drinking and driving. I mean, come on. Even the cops drink and drive there in Canton, Massachusetts. I can't deal with it. I can't deal with drinking alcohol and driving. I think it's a terrible thing to do, but even the cops do it there. So they're not exactly setting a good example, are they? Anyhow, so Karen and John got invited back to the little afters party that they were having at Brian Albert's house, 34 Fairview Road. Okay. So the time that they arrived is in question. This is one of the things that's very important. In your me, I do love a good timeline. So they either got there at 12:21 or 12:24. Now, it's only a 5-minute drive, but they did get, it appears, they did get a little bit lost because John rang Jen McCabe for directions. And it does appear from John's GPS that they did go on an unusual route. So I think they just got lost. So they added a couple of minutes on. All right. So they either arrived at 12:21 or 12:24. And those 3 minutes are crucial. They're crucial to understand who is interpreting John O'Keefe's phone data most accurately. And I'm going to present both sides. Okay. Now, Karen didn't want to go in. When she got there, she didn't want to go in. So she left John there. So she claims that she saw John going towards the door. And I think she initially wanted John to go in to make sure she was welcome. But so she stayed there for a few minutes. And John didn't come back out. So she left. And she was mad. She was angry. And she drove back to John O'Keefe's house, which is here, One Meadows Ave. That's just 6 minutes from 34 Fairview Road. And she did indeed arrive home at 12:36. 12:36 a.m. on her phone. Her phone automatically logged into the Wi-Fi at 12:36. So she had to have left 34 Fairview at or before 12:30, because it's a 6-minute drive to here, right? And it absolutely is 6 minutes, I'll show you. So I'll take this one out and put One Meadows Ave in there. One Meadows. There you go, 6 minutes. 6 minutes. 7 minutes if you go via a longer route. So she had to have left by 12:30. Unless she drove like the wind. I don't know. Maybe she could cut a minute off. But she leaves here at 12:30. She's auto logged into the Wi-Fi at One Meadows Ave at 12:36. Okay. All right. So that's the backstory. Now here's the timeline. So this is the beginning of my rabbit hole. Thoughts on Judge Bev? She's better than Judge Gull. Let's put it that way. But she's biased. She's biased towards the prosecution. She clearly doesn't like the defense. However, she's better than Judge Gull. You know, anybody's better than Judge Gull. Not quite as bad. No one can be as bad as Judge Gull. At least Judge Bev pretends to follow the law. Judge Gull doesn't even care. Someone call me. The phone never left the area of 34 Fairview. It didn't, no. Okay, all right, timeline. So we've got a big discrepancy here, and this is based on the inner workings of the iPhone. Now, this is how it's relevant to the Delphi case, because we've had loads of discussions on this channel, and many other channels have discussed the inner workings of the iPhone. As in the Delphi case, we're all over Libby's phone data, Libby having an iPhone 6S. So we've got another case here where we're contemplating and wondering about the inner workings of the iPhone. And the inner workings of the iPhone are secret. Apple won't reveal their secret source. They won't tell you exactly how these things work. So, you know, people who work with iPhones for law enforcement, you know, like phone data specialists and so on, they're having to like reverse engineer like the iPhone and kind of work out how it's working and what it's doing, because Apple are so secretive about the inner workings of their tech, which I like. I do like that about Apple. It's annoying when you're trying to work out, you know, you've got this crucial 3-minute difference, and is it a real 3-minute difference? And it in my opinion, this 3-minute difference means a lot. It means a lot. We're dealing with a very tight timeline as it is, because we know Karen had to have left by 12:30 to get back to One Meadows Ave for 12:36. Okay, so 12:21, Karen Reid arrives at 34 Fairview. Now, the Waze app is, I think it's like a driving app. We're going to listen to the discussion about Waze from the first trial in a bit. So via the Waze's clock, there's a 3-minute offset. So actually, they arrived. The prosecution thinks they arrived at 12:24, because that's what they were going off the Waze app, and that's what the Waze app told them. However, the discussion at trial 1 was that the Waze app might have been using a different clock inside the inner workings of the iPhone, and actually the real time that they arrived was 12:21. So we've got this 3 minutes discrepancy. The prosecution thinks they arrived at 12:24. The defense, via their expert, thinks they arrived at 12:21. Now, looking at the map, the waterfall bar to 34 Fairview is only 5 minutes. So you would think if they left at 12:12, the 12:21 would be closer because it's only 5 minutes. So they should have got there at 12:17, shouldn't they? But they did go an awkward way, like they got lost. So did they arrive at 12:21 or did they arrive at 12:24? This is the debate. And those 3 minutes are really important, as we'll see. Okay. Now, we've also got this massive problem of, again, it's very much like the Delphi case, that John's phone was registering steps and flights climbed at a time when the prosecution think that he was dying, that he was being knocked over by Karen's vehicle. They claim that Karen willfully knocked him over, that he got out of her vehicle and she reversed into him at 24 miles an hour. Now, my question is, how on earth did John O'Keefe sustain the injuries that he got from a collision with a Lexus SUV? He had virtually no injuries on his body, except for the right arm, which looked awfully a lot like dog bites to me. But the prosecution thinks it's a cocktail glass that magically flew itself through the air and cut John's right arm. Well, where's the glass in his cuts? Why was there no glass in those cuts? You know yourself. Have you ever been cut? Like, have you ever, like, I don't know, been washing up or something, and or you've fallen on a piece of glass? What does it do? It embeds itself into your flesh. If you'd been, like, I don't know, flung through the air and landed on a cocktail glass, your arm would be full of glass. Why was there no glass in those wounds? I know. So maybe they thought of that. All right. So they said, oh, well, actually, it wasn't the cocktail glass that cut him. It was the tail light. It was a tail light. So last time I did a live stream on Karen Reid, I talked about the tail light. So we're not going to go back into that again today. But so he's now sideswiped by a Lexus SUV. He gets a fractured skull through hitting the ground. I just can't visualize it. I can't visualize how that could have happened. Because how did the taillight hit his right arm? How did the taillight hit his right arm and none of the rest of his body? Because there was no injuries to the rest of his body, only his head, which the prosecution's claiming happened when he hit the ground. So where's the injury? Where's the impact? Because there's not even any bruising on his right arm. It's just a bunch of cuts. So whether he's cut by the cocktail glass or whether he's cut by the tail light, how on earth did he sustain absolutely zero other injuries to his body? I can't deal with that. I can't deal with that. And for that reason, I don't believe that John O'Keefe was hit by Karen Reid's car. If you can explain to me those injuries in a way that makes sense to me, I'll listen. Anyhow, moving on. So, like the Delphi case, this case is really problematic because of the victim's phone data. Because the victim's phone data doesn't fit with the state's theory. Cuts but no bruising, exactly. No bruising, just cuts. We've seen the autopsy photos, John O'Keefe's arm. No bruising, just cuts. Some of them, puncture wounds, look very much like caused by canine teeth from a dog. Others are more scratch-like, so claws. But none of them, like the puncture wound ones, would surely have glass in them, something to show that there'd been there'd been an external force that injured them. And people say, well, how come there was no dog DNA on John O'Keefe's arm? I'll tell you why there was no dog DNA on John O'Keefe's arm, because nobody tested for it. Nobody swabbed John O'Keefe's arm for dog DNA. The only thing they swabbed was his shirt. Yeah, why get rid of the dog? Exactly. Okay. So, this phone data is really problematic for the state. So, between 1221 and 1224, John's phone logs 3 flights of stairs taken. So, we know from the Delphi case that flights climbed, so whether you're climbing actual stairs or a ladder or you're climbing a hill, you need to ascend, so go upwards. It doesn't record downwards as flights climbed. And one flight is equivalent to about 10 feet of elevation. And a phone records elevation, as in a flight climbed, by the use of the motion sensor, so knowing that the phone's actually moving, and also a change in barometric pressure. So both of those things have to be happening at the same time for the phone to register a flight climbed. So if you go into an elevator, your phone is not going to register flights climbed. The phone will experience the change in barometric pressure because it's going up. However, the speedo isn't going to be working. Like the motion sensor isn't going to be working. So it's not going to register as flights climbed in an elevator. So you basically have to be climbing stairs, a ladder, some kind of steps, or a hill. A steepish hill will register. So 3 flights climbed means that John, between 1221 and 1224, so within those 3 minutes, and these are the crucial 3 minutes. These are the crucial 3 minutes, and I'll show you for why in a minute. But it's about 30 feet or about 9 meters. So between 9 and 10 meters, if you're using metric, about 30 feet if you're using like proper measurements. I'm with you Americans. I cannot use metric. I cannot use metric. I was taught metric at school. Like we never did feet, inches and yards at school. I was too young to remember that, but I can't work in it. I can't work in metric. I have to convert everything to old money. Imperial, thank you. Yeah. So, anyhow, So these crucial 3 minutes, why are they crucial? Because the state believes that they've not even arrived outside of 34 Fairview when John climbed up 3 flights of stairs. Because the state believes that they arrived at 12:24. So in the 3 minutes before they arrived, when John was sitting in a vehicle, because remember, they left the waterfall bar at 12 minutes past 12. So they were in their vehicle. They're in Karen's vehicle. So how could John climb 3 flights of stairs whilst sitting in a vehicle? Now, the defense says, well, they arrived at 12:21, and actually, those steps were John going upstairs in 34 Fairview. Now, the house is on 3 levels, so you go in on the ground level. They've got a basement, so you go down steps to a basement. So you'd have to go down to the basement and then up again for it to register 1 flight. And then you've got the stairs that go to the upstairs, so to the presumably the bedroom area. So 3 flights climbed in those 3 minutes makes more sense if you're in a house than in a vehicle. However, as we'll see when we play a clip from trial 1, the state have got an answer for this, which I completely glazed over. And it's so interesting. Now I've gone back and actually listened to that testimony again. It's so interesting. Now, we know from some more guests that Karen actually was outside of 34 Fairview at 12:23. Ryan Nagel's car arrives at 12:23. And we know this from the phone records of Ryan and Julie Nagel. So Julie Nagel was inside and she wanted Ryan to pick her up. And he texted her here, like I'm outside. And then she went outside to say, oh, you don't need to stay. I'm going to stay for a bit or whatever. So he went away again. And when he drove away, he saw Karen's car. So at 12:23, Karen was parked outside 34 Fairview. And Ryan claims that he saw Karen in her vehicle, described the car, described Karen, did not see John. So did not see John because he didn't go inside. He just pulled up outside, pulled up behind Karen, texted here to Julie. Julie comes out, speaks to Ryan, and then he drives away. And to drive away, I think he had to go around Karen, like to drive away. So he saw Karen in the car on her own. There was no body on the pavement or no body on the lawn, no body underneath the flagpole, because Ryan Nagel drove straight past. Okay, so let's go down to street level here. Okay, 34 Fairview. Let's go down to street level. All right, so this is 34 Fairview. Here's the flagpole. So Ryan Nagel and Karen are both parked here, along here, right? John O'Keefe's body was found near this flagpole. So around here, this area, right? So the state want you to believe that Karen, sitting here, So Karen's sitting here. All right. Ryan Nagel pulls up behind Karen. Julie Nagel comes out and says, oh, I don't need a lift. Like, you can leave. So he drives away. He drives away, sees Karen in the car, and doesn't see John. So if John at 12:23 was dying, that, you know, Karen had hit him and was dying, well, where's John? Where's John? He had to have gone in the house because he's not there. He's not in the car and he's not outside of the car. He had to have gone in the house. Ryan Nagel did not see him. Julie Nagel did not see him. Julie Nagel, coming out of the house to go and speak to Ryan, didn't see him. And this is at 12:23. I know the blur in it is stupid because if you go here, the house is right there. The house is right there. The blurring only comes on when you do that. So Google have done a really bad job of blurring out this house. Really bad job. Really bad job. Anyhow. Okay. So Nagel's car arrives at 12:23. Here, text from Ryan to Julie. No one in that car saw John inside Karen's car or get out of her car. That means John was already inside. He was either inside or hiding in the bushes or in the backyard. I did a video maybe 2 weeks ago now with a tentative theory. Just a tentative theory. I'm not saying it's my number one theory. It's just something I thought about. What if John didn't go in the house? What if he went in the backyard? What if he went in the back way? You know, for those of you who don't want to, you know, that you don't necessarily believe that Karen hit him, but you also don't want to believe that he was murdered by Brian Albert's gang. Well, okay, what happened to him then? Because he died. Well, what if he was attacked by the dog? What if he went... And I'm not saying this is my number one theory. I'm saying this is just a possible. It's just something I thought about. What if, instead of going in the door, what if he went round the back? What if he opened that gate and went round the back? Because we know from Brian Albert's testimony that he let Chloe, the German Shepherd, out to go for her business around this time. So what if John wasn't sure which door to go in and thought, oh, I'll just go round the back, and went round the back and met with Chloe and she bit him and he fell backwards, banged his head on something and died. And then they find him later. What happened? What would happen if it was something that simple? And they panicked because, you know, they thought, oh God, the dog's done this. The dog's already got a bite history. We're going to be in massive trouble. I don't know. Something I thought of. Not saying I necessarily believe that's what happened, but it's just something possibly that could have happened if you don't feel comfortable thinking that the cronies inside here actually murdered him. That there are other alternatives. There are other alternatives. You know, that this was an accident, but they panicked. They did the wrong thing. And then they put him outside here. They dragged his body or carried his body just a few yards to here, and we're going to say, oh, he's hit by a snowplow because it was like blizzard conditions. I don't know. Something I thought of. Anyway, back to this. Okay, so because the Nagels didn't see him, John had to be either hiding in the bushes, round the back, or in the house. Because he wasn't at the front of the house, he wasn't dying near the flagpole, and he wasn't in Karen's car. So where was he? As also supported by his Apple Health data, logging 3 flights of stairs, which tend to be in the house. Not necessarily, though, because if you're climbing a hill. What they don't tend to do, though, is register steps when you're in a car. And this is why these 3 minutes are so important. Now, we know that the 1224 has to be wrong, that the state's opinion of the vehicle arriving at 1224 has to be wrong because Ryan Nagel was already there at 1223. So it's more likely they arrived at 1221 than 1224. And the 3 flights actually happened inside the house. Okay. And obviously it doesn't have to be John carrying his phone up and downstairs. It could be people panicking. Like, what on earth are we going to do with this phone? What are we going to do with this phone? Could be that. Now, this is also another controversial aspect. At 12:30, John's phone disconnects from Karen's car, which means that John, or at least his phone, is far enough away from Karen's car to disconnect from the Bluetooth. So John's phone was connected to Karen's car via Bluetooth. So Karen had to have been at least 30 feet away, if not more, from John's phone for that phone to disconnect from Karen's car. So that's 12:30 when the phone disconnects. So that's Karen driving away, isn't it? 12:30. Because that fits really nicely with her getting back to 1 Meadows Ave at 12:36, because that's a 6-minute drive. So from 34 Fairview to 1 Meadows Ave is 6 minutes. So Karen drives away at 12:30. John's phone disconnects. And then she arrives here and her phone logs into the Wi-Fi at 12:36. That's perfect. That's perfect. Was there not the victim's DNA on Karen's car? There was some DNA on Karen's car, but John had just been in the car. So, you know, it's her boyfriend. She practically lived at his house. So the fact that there was some DNA on her car from John, well, sure. Because Karen practically lived there. On the outside of the car where the impact was alleged. Yeah, but all he had to do was touch the car. Like at some point in the recent past. It wasn't blood. All he had to do was put his hand on the car. And there you go. There's your touch DNA. So there's no blood on the car. No blood on the car. No blood. No blood. Which again, how on earth can you impact somebody and leave no injuries apart from scratches and bites on the right arm and a dent in your tail light, which most likely happened when she hit John's car when she was leaving to go and look for him. There was a hair on Karen's car. Well, again, I don't believe. Right. So if there's a hair on Karen's car, so from John, are you saying that John's tail light, that Karen's tail light hit John in the head? Because if you're saying that the hair got there through the impact, well, it would have to have hit him in the head. And that's not what the state are saying. The state are saying that the collision happened through a sideswipe, and that's why he didn't have the injuries that you'd expect that a pedestrian would have when hit by an SUV. Did the dent in the tail light not match up with the head injury then? No, not at all. Not at all. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Okay. Okay. So, all right. So that's when Karen drives away. So either what the state will say is, well, that's when Karen's hit him and then driven away. Oh, Michelle, be careful with this case. Why? Why? I'm quite happy to offend both sides and just give my opinion. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, I don't care. All right. So the state would say that, well, that's when she hit him, 12:30, and she drives away and leaves him lying there. Okay. Well, where was he at 12:23 when Ryan Nagel was there? So 7 minutes previous, Ryan Nagel was there and didn't see John. Didn't see John in the car and didn't see John outside of the car. So where was John at 12:23? And if she just hit him, if she murdered him at 12:23 and he's lying there dying, and Ryan Nagel just didn't happen to see him, why did she stay there for another 7 minutes? That doesn't make sense either, does it? No, okay. All right. Then between 12:31 and 12:32, so this is after Karen left, John's phone logs 25 meters in movement, which is about 80 feet. All of this movement had to have been taking place far enough from Karen's car because it had already disconnected from Bluetooth. So Karen's car was gone at 12:30. That's when the phone disconnected from the Bluetooth. So how, if John was lying there dying, how did his phone log a distance of 80 feet traveled? How did that work then? So that's a massive problem for the state. So again, let's have a look. So the state are saying, well, we know where John was found. John was found here. So they're saying that Karen drove forward, reversed, hit him at 24 miles an hour, sideswipes him, and flings him onto the lawn, and he cracks his head on the floor, on the ground, which was frozen, and he dies from his head injury and hypothermia, so he doesn't die instantly. So that's not 80 feet, is it? That's about 10 feet. I can actually measure it on Google Earth. Hold on. Where's my pen gone? Where's my 34 value pen gone? There we go. You can't see this because I can't add this to without sharing my whole screen. But you're going to... Oh, go on then. You've twisted my arm. I'll show you. I know you can do measure on Google Maps, but I just never remember how to do it. All right, so So in 1 minute, between 12:31 and 12:32, John's phone travels 80 feet. Whilst he's lying, dying. Because Karen's already left. All right, so from the road to the flagpole, can we find, will it show me the flagpole? Okay. All right. Feet. So 15 feet. 15, 16, 17 feet. All right. So not 80 feet. Are you supposed to be seeing something? Yeah. Yes, we are. You are supposed to be seeing something. You are supposed to be seeing something. You're supposed to be seeing this. So from here to here, so 17 feet. 18 feet. All right. But from the house to there, oh, it's 60 feet. Interesting. So between 12:31 and 12:32, John's phone moves 80 feet. What about from the backyard, from here to the flagpole? What about that? Oh, look at that, 78 feet. Oh. So from the opposite side of the gate to the flagpole, approximately, is 78 feet. Oh. Okay, interesting. Can you see what rabbit hole I went down this morning? Yeah. All right, I've got to share it differently again now so that you can see. So, all right, let's listen to what was said. So this is Hank Brennan this week. This is Hank Brennan this week. Just confirming what this post says is true. So we've already talked about Karen's phone reconnecting with her Wi-Fi at John's house. Okay. All right. So let's listen to Hank, shall we? We're only going to play a couple of minutes from Hank here. This is from just a couple of days ago.
It's just a different opinion than they like. So if they like the opinion, all of these standards that Attorney Lisi's insisting on are excused, but if they don't like the opinion, somehow should be excluded. They're really polar opposites when you think about the perspective and the opinions they give it. They both have a different opinion about the taillights causing the injury to Mr. O'Keefe's arm. One the defense likes, one they don't. It is the same science, same study, same analysis. And so if it's acceptable for ARCA, it must be acceptable for Dr. Welcher. Dr. Welcher actually downloaded the text stream data. He didn't ignore it. He didn't know that it didn't exist. He didn't fail to consider it. He actually downloaded it himself. He is experienced. He looked the material, studied the material. The text stream data is critical in this case because it shows time and place with the new information that we have. So we know from the Waze information exactly where that car went from the waterfall to the flagpole. We know where it didn't stop along the way. We know, based on the phone data, Mr. O'Keefe's phone data, when he was in the car until. We have all that evidence, and as a bioengineer, he can consider all of that technical data, which will be introduced through other witnesses at trial before he testifies. And it's important. The location.
All right. So all this, the Waze data, the location where they stopped, the GPS tracking of it all was shown in trial 1. So we're going to show that in a minute. This is just what Hank is saying a couple of days ago. When was this? 20th of March. Okay. So Hank is trying to get an expert in, and the defense don't want this expert in. So I say, let all the experts in, let them hash it out. It's the same data that we've seen in trial 1. So let them all hash it out. Anyway, he just says a little bit more about John's phone. So he's basically saying that they've got it all. We know they've got it all. We've seen it all. Wasn't presented very nicely by Adam Lally. So I apologise on behalf of Adam Lally that you're going to have a few minutes of boredom shortly, because we're going to be playing Adam Lally questioning the trooper. What was his name? Trooper Garino, I think his name was, about the phone data.
And timing of that car is important. This is all science and data. It's not witness testimony. It's science and data. And it puts that car at that flagpole at the time Mr. O'Keefe is there with his cell phone, locked into the Bluetooth in that Lexus until he gets out of the car after 12:30. And within 2 minutes, we allege this collision occurs. And there's Apple Health data, there's location data, there's cell phone battery temperature. It all coincides. He should be able to consider these things in his study. This is what he does.
All right, cool. Right. So he's saying should be able to consider all of that in his study at the trial, whatever. Okay, cool. I agree. Let him in. So we've already ascertained. Thank you, Canoni's Baloney, for the $4.99. Please measure from the corner of drive to front door following drive and path. John would have walked on the lawn. Oh, he wouldn't have walked on the lawn. He hated people doing that. All right. Okay. Thank you for the $4.99. Let me reshare Google. All right. So to get into the house, John, now depending on where Karen parked, whether she parked there the whole time or whether she dropped him off there and then scooched forward. But let's go from there. Oh, hold on. Let's do path. Let's go from about there. So let's say he walked along here, up here, and then see, you could either go in the side door, which is there, the front door, which is there. So that's 157 feet. That's quite a long way. Or she could have dropped him here and then scooched forward when Ryan Nagel turned up. And if you use the path to the front door, that's 100 feet. It's fair walk. But between 12:31 and 12:32, and you've just heard Hank just 3 days ago say that, they've got their expert to reanalyze all this phone data, and there was a disconnect from John's phone and Karen's car at 12:30. So Karen's car had to have gone at 12:30. It had to have gone at 12:30 because she arrives back at Meadows Ave at 12:36. Try side door. Well, I'm not really that interested in the getting inside. 83 feet, 84 feet to the side door. The measure of 80 feet is between 12:31 and 12:32. That's when John is supposed to be lying by the flagpole dying. So he's not walked 80 feet. He has not walked 80 feet between 12:31 and 12:32 because Karen's already left. So the crime of Karen murdering him or manslaughtering him had to have already happened between 12:31 and 12:32. John's phone walked 80 feet. So how did John's phone walk 80 feet when he's lying by the flagpole dying? That doesn't make sense. But it is 80 feet from just behind these gates here to this flagpole. 81 feet, 84 feet. I've gone in a bit of a zigzag there rather than a straight line. So let's say, for example, John's already dead, but he's either dead inside the house or in the backyard. And they go and dump his phone down here. There's your 80 feet. And then the phone doesn't move again after 12:32. So those inside the house who know John's dead, they might say, well, what we're going to do with this phone? They're panicking about this phone. I know what. When people have left, we'll go and dump his body down by the flagpole and say that he got knocked over by a snowplow. And somebody's just scooted out and gone and chuck the phone down here. And there it sits. What is the distance straight through the garage? Straight through the garage to where, though? To where? Like through the garage to... In the footage of... Oh, to the backyard. Through the garage to the backyard. Hold on. From here to the backyard. I don't know where the backyard begins. Hold on. So through the garage to the backyard. About 34 feet. Doesn't seem very much, but that's what it's telling me. In the footage of the cops using the leaf blower, you can see footprints going from that area towards the back gate. There you go then. There you go then. All right. So we've heard what Hank said a couple of days ago. We're now going to listen to what that conversation sounded like at trial 1. So unfortunately for us all, we are going to have to listen to Adam Lally. Why is it not sharing? I am actually sharing. So don't say you're not seeing anything. I'm not seeing anything either. All right, there we go. There we go. All right. All right, so we're going to listen, first of all, to Adam Lally, prosecutions. This is a prosecution witness. This was from June 20th. All right, trooper testifies about GPS phone data at Karen Reid's murder trial. Do Lally. I was calling him that throughout the trial. All right, so I'll spare you some of this. Let's go from about here.
I'm showing you a series of documents. You can view those and look up when you're finished.
Okay.
You recognize those, sir?
Oh, I got the name right. Garino. Trooper Garino. Yeah, that's the one.
Yes.
And what do you recognize those to be?
These are the plotted points I did through Google Earth, the maps, and then through LexisNexis, the track system, the GPS range and coordinates.
And the LexisNexis track system, if you could explain just a bit to the jury as far as what that is and how it's used to create these documents before you.
It's similar to that Startopo program I used. It's a desktop-based GPS program. You put the points in, and then it will map them out and create, like I said, a KMZ file for you, so you can load it into Google Earth.
May I approach, John?
Yes.
Almost the teaching.
Okay.
Objection.
Thank you.
6:38.
May I return to the witness, John?
Yes.
With the court's permission, may I publish this, jury?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could take that down. May I have a moment, John?
Yes.
This is why the trial took weeks. Because of Adam Lally. Honestly.
In fact, Trooper, if you're more comfortable standing for some of your testimony, you certainly can.
Thank you, Howard.
Gilman, if you could enlarge that just a bit. Thank you. Now, Trooper, there should be a laser pointer up on the stand before you. If you could, first of all, let me just ask you, recognize what's up on the screen now as the next exhibit.
Yes.
And again, if you could just explain to the jury sort of what we're looking at in this slide, and then using that laser pointer, if you could, direct the jury's attention to what, if anything, of significance you have in this particular slide.
So I took an overview of the town of Canton. So this here is the GPS route, and then down over, I can barely see. Let me just look on the map here. It's not much better.
These are really horrible exhibits. Really horrible.
The waterfall bar is right up. I can't really tell honestly from this, but it's on Washington Street. That's it's down here. I'm sorry. That's why I included an overview of everything, so you could see the full range from the time period with that GPS locations.
Your Honor, if I may, just if it's possible, I don't know.
Keep your voice up.
I don't know if this is going to work any better, but if I could ask if we could turn the lights back on just so.
There was beef between one cop and John going way back. There was beef between Higgins, who was Brian Albert's friend, and John currently, because Higgins wanted a little liaison, shall we say, with Karen. He'd been texting her that very night. Interesting, just to note that.
The witness can see
Sure.
what's before him, and then. With the court's permission, I think the map is still viewable to the jury, and now the witness can actually see.
Oh, come on, Adam. All I want them to tell us is how they get 20 to 30 feet, well, 30 feet, 3 floors, climbed while John was in the car. That's what I want him to tell us. That's where I want him to get to.
The jury, where that point is in relation to where 34 Fairview Road is.
Yes. So this is where they were with the ascending, descending stairs. They would continue down through.
So I've gone a bit too far. We go.
It's not much better. The waterfall bar is right up. I can't really tell.
So I've taken us right back to where we were, so I shouldn't have even bothered messing with it. I want him to tell us how he thinks that while John was sitting in a vehicle, he managed to climb 3 flights of stairs, and at what time. Oh, yeah, Higgins destroyed his phone. He absolutely did. Hos long to die in the cold. Yeah. Hos long for Adam Lally to get his witness to the point where we should be at. I don't know how the jury sat through this. I bet they must have been bored stupid.
Honestly, from this, but it's on Washington Street. That's it's down here. I'm sorry. That's why I included an overview of everything so you could see the full range from the time period with that.
And the other thing with Adam Lally, you could hardly hear him. So you had to turn your volume right up to hear Adam Lally, and then the witness would like blast your eardrums.
GPS locations.
Your Honor, if I may, just if it's possible, I don't know.
Keep your voice up.
I'm sorry. I don't know if this is going to work any better, but if I could ask if we could turn the lights back on just so the witness can see
Sure.
what's before him, and then. Okay. With the court's permission, I think the map is still viewable to the jury, and now the witness can actually see the exhibit.
Can everybody see it?
And so again, sir, Trooper, I'm sorry. Now with visible before you, if you could just indicate again what we're looking at in this.
Yep. So when you zoomed in, it actually closed it out, but it's down over here is the waterfall bar. There's a couple of points there listed. And then right around here is when the GPS tracks go, and their route, once Waze is activated, down to 34 Fairview. There is a zoomed in version of by Fairview.
And Ms. Cameron, if I could have the next slide.
Here we go. This is the point I want us to get to.
So
What are we looking at in this slide?
Yep. So this is the track. This one shows the 12:22. 12:22 and 14 second GPS point where right here where the little arrow is. That's exactly where they were when the phone is registering the ascending, descending stairs, like listed in Cellbrite.
If you could, using that laser pointer to illustrate to the jury where that point is in relation to where 34 Fairview Road is.
Yes. So this is where they were with the ascending, descending stairs. They would continue down through this little piece here, take the right onto Cedar Crest. They continue down Cedar Crest, missing Fairview right here, and then turn back around and then come to the house.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide.
So 12:22. So I think. All right. So remember, they left Waterfall at 12:12. All right. So let's change this back to Waterfall. Well, we don't need to. We don't need to. So instead of going this normal nice route this way, which would take you 5 minutes. Hold on, let me. I might as well put Waterfall in. Instead of going this nice 5 minute route, 5-6 minute route, right? The reason why they didn't arrive at 12:17 as they should have done, because they left at 12:12, is they ended up going. I think they must have missed this turning onto Fairview and gone down here, because they end up on Oakdale at some point. And if you listen to the whole testimony from Trooper Greeno, he explains the whole route. I'm just sparing you it because of Adam Lally. It takes him forever to get there. But they end up around here, Oakdale, around this area. And it's this area where they believe John's 3 flights of stairs came in. Now, if you look on Google Earth, it doesn't show you on Google Maps, but if you look on Google Earth, there is a hill here. There is. There is a hill about here. So, it would be possible for John's phone to register 3 flights climbed while he was in a car going up a hill if the phone was registering John's car journey as walking. Because remember what I said about if you take your phone in an elevator and you go up, it doesn't register as flights climbed because it's not registering motion, forward motion. It's only measuring barometric pressure going up. And for an iPhone to register flights climbed, it has to have both. It has to be able to register barometric pressure going up, but also it has to be also measuring motion, forward motion. So in an elevator, it ain't going to happen. In a car, your phone doesn't register. You don't accrue steps while you're sitting in a car. Therefore, if you're going up a hill, you're not going to be registering flights climbed because it'd be the equivalent of being in an elevator. So even though your phone would be, in its inner workings, it would be registering the barometric changes going up and down the hills. It wouldn't be measuring steps, and it wouldn't therefore be measuring flights climbed because it has to have both. It has to have the rise in the barometric pressure going up for it to register that there's an elevation, and it has to measure the motion going forward. So the only way that John's phone would measure flights climbed going up a hill, and there is indeed a hill here, you can't really see it on the map, but there is, would be if John's phone was being bumped around, because your phone is designed not to register steps while you're in a moving vehicle, but it will register some steps if there's lots of bumps. So if it's like you're going down a bumpy track, like when I used to go to work on the train, right, back in the day, they used to have these really old carriages and it was just really bumpy. And my phone would register steps whilst I was on the train journey to work. It was really bumpy though. So I'd be interested to know whether Karen's phone was also measuring flights climbed and steps taken. Because if John's phone was measuring flights climbed because they're going up a hill and they're on a really bumpy road, that's great, fine, that explains it. But Karen's phone is also in that vehicle, so that also would be traveling up a hill on a bumpy road. So that also should be registering those flights climbed, shouldn't it? Common sense. So I would like to know whether John's phone and Karen's phone showed the same activity. Secondly, Trooper Garino said that this activity, these 3 flights climbed, happened when they're in this vicinity, right? They've missed the turning, they've gone up here somewhere. I think they've gone up here, around here, and they had to come back, and they mess around. They're up here, they're around here, whatever. All right. I mean, the whole place is hilly. There's a hill down here and all. So why is it not registered more flights is a question. However, Trooper Garino said that this activity happened at 12:22. Well, Ryan Nagel, as we've already talked about, Ryan Nagel got there at 12:23 and John was nowhere to be seen. Karen was there, but John wasn't. So 1 minute before, the state want you to believe that they were streets away, still lost, with John's phone registering 3 flights climbed, which is 30 feet. So it's a decent sized hill to go up. And yet less than a minute later, they're there outside of 34 Fairview with Karen sitting in the car on her own, and John is nowhere to be seen. So I don't know that that makes sense to me. I don't know that that makes sense. All right, let's listen to the same trooper being cross-examined by David Yannetti. This is David Yannetti. That same defence is with Karen for trial 2. David Yannetti and Jackson. We've also got Miss Liddell. So it's the same team plus Alessi. We've got another person, Alessi. So at least 3 of them, Alan Jackson, David Yannetti, and Eliza Liddell, they've all been with Karen through trial 1. And then we've got Alessi, who's the new one, who's going to come in for trial 2. All right, so I've got to find the right spot here, because I'm not great at remembering timestamps. No, that's right at the beginning. So it's near the end. I'm going to say, here we go. All right, we're going to take it back a few minutes. Oh, no, still got to go further. All right, we'll take it from this break here. So we've got a few minutes to this, because what David Yannetti does was breaks all of this down in a really interesting way. And the witness, to be fair, does all right, under cross-examination. Better than some of these law enforcement officials under cross-examination. They didn't come across really well at all. Anyhow, we're going to take it from here. Bloody hell. I hate it when StreamYard does this. It disconnects the audio. It works for a while and then it just disconnects the audio. Right, we should be good now.
No investigator put the plane into airplane mode that early morning because you know that location data was found on that phone, correct?
I don't know when it was placed in airplane mode.
But you know it wasn't by 6:15 a.m., correct?
That is correct.
All right. And there's also another way to prevent any signal from entering or exiting the phone. You'd agree with that?
Yes, there is.
This is just the last bit of the previous conversation, so I don't want to miss anything. So this conversation here is nearly ended, and he comes on to the relevant stuff that we're talking about here in a minute.
Direct examination, you mentioned the concept of a Faraday bag.
That is correct, sir.
A Faraday bag has special fabric that blocks electromagnetic signals entirely, does it not?
Yes, sir.
So putting the phone into a Faraday bag would be another way to stop the phone from recording location data while the phone's in police custody, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you'd agree with me that during that early morning hours, as of 6:15 a.m. and thereafter, no investigator in this case put that phone into a Faraday bag on January 29th, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
In fact, after John O'Keefe's cell phone started registering movement at 6:15 and 36 seconds in the morning on January 29th, it continued to record location data the rest of the morning until 11:56 and 1 second a.m. on January 29th, correct?
I don't know the exact end time, but I know it does have GPS data points throughout the day.
So you would agree with me that for several hours after the police had the phone, it was not put in a Faraday bag and it was not put into airplane mode, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Now, with regard to the voicemails that you've previously testified to and that the jury has heard and they've been introduced into evidence.
All right, so this is the bit that we're getting to. This is the timeline. Harry Potter, member for 23 months. Yeah, one more month and you get your OG badge. Woo, woo.
You had testified on direct examination that Karen Reed's phone connected to the Wi-Fi at 1 Meadows Ave at approximately 12:36 in the morning.
Yes, sir.
So you can testify based on that by 12:36 in the morning, Karen Reed was not at 34 Fairview, correct?
That's correct.
And that was the first of those voicemails that you testified to, correct? That was the I hate you voicemail?
Yes, that's 12:37, correct.
Okay. And that voicemail and every other voicemail that the jury heard was left after Karen had left 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes, sir.
And except for the one at, after 6 in the morning, the 4-minute one when she went back, we heard that one. But all the other ones were apparently left when she was at 1 Meadows, correct?
I can't speak to where she was, but
But she wasn't at 34 Fairview.
yes, that's correct. She wasn't at 34.
And you would agree with me, based on those voicemails and what you know about them and what we've just discussed, that no one at 34 Fairview, including Jennifer McCabe, could have witnessed Karen Reed outside that residence at 12:45 a.m., correct?
No, I don't believe so.
So you agree with me? No one could have, including Jennifer McCabe, could have seen her at 12:45 at 34 Fairview?
As I said, she auto connects to the Wi-Fi at 12:36, so no, she wouldn't have been there.
All right. Now, we've talked about.
That's relevant because in Jen McCabe's testimony, she says that she saw Karen outside at 12:45. Well, that's completely impossible because Karen was already back at 1 Meadows Ave, connecting to the Wi-Fi at 12:36 and sending the voicemail to John saying she hates him at 12:37. So there's no way that she can be in two places at once. So that was that was why he made that point.
The findings of, or the fact that you reviewed the findings of Rick Green by reading the affidavit that he.
Didn't Lally say it was 12:45? I think he did, yeah. Because that was that was going from what Jen McCabe said, that she saw Karen parked outside at 12:45. Completely impossible. That's why these 3 minutes here between 12:21 and 12:24 are really important. They're really important because the defense say that she was there at 12:21 and she had to have been there before 12:23 because that's when Ryan Nagel sees her. But the defense say, the prosecution say that she didn't get there until 12:24, which then would say that the 3 flights climbed at 12:22 were while they were travelling up a hill on the road. Whereas the defence would say, well, John arrived there at 12:21, went upstairs at 34 Fairview at 12:22. So the flights climbed were inside Fairview. And Karen was left on her own outside at 12:23. And Ryan Nagel didn't see John because Ryan Nagel didn't go in the house and John was already in the house. So, in my opinion, the defence, their timeline of what potentially happened fits the data better. But it's really tight, and it's all depending on those 3 minutes. It's all depending on 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Submitted, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you learned in that affidavit that Rick Green was able to track not only when John O'Keefe arrived at 34 Fairview, but also the route that he and Ms. Reed took to get there on January 29th, correct?
I don't recall his report fully, but
You learned that he was able to accomplish that by examining the data from the app Waze that you spoke of, correct?
yes, I did find that myself.
All right. And Waze is spelled W-A-Z-E, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you've previously testified it's a commonly used app for driving directions and navigation.
Yes, sir.
And regarding your analysis of the phone, you learned that there was Apple Health data from John O'Keefe's phone on January 29th of 2022, correct?
That is correct.
And Apple Health data can reveal.
All right, Apple Health coming next. Didn't those people in the vehicle behind see her leave? No, I don't think so. I think Ryan Nagel went by Karen. And as he went by, he saw her in the car on her own. So no one actually saw her leave.
Reveal a number of steps that a person has taken during a given time period, as well as whether that person is going up or down stairs, correct?
Yes.
And on John O'Keefe's phone, you learned that there was Apple Health data that tracked his steps from the time he's seen on surveillance video leaving the Waterfall Bar and Grill and moving forward after that, correct?
I don't know anything about the Waterfall Bar video. I just have the timestamp from the phone showing it at around 12:12
Okay.
at the waterfall.
All right. And
Yeah, so they were leaving at 12:12 at the Waterfall, which is 5 minutes away from Fairview. But they took a arse-about-face route because they got lost. That's why it took them a bit longer to get there than it should have done.
it actually was between 12:11 and 9 seconds, and then the ending period of that first time period was 12:21 and 5 seconds. And then you.
Oh, yes, from the health. Thank you. Yes, yeah.
Okay, from the Apple Health. And the data showed that he took a total of 170 steps between that time period, correct?
That's what the phone registered. Yes.
All right. And regarding those 170 steps, isn't it true that this data from Apple Health signifies that 170 steps took place at some point during that 10-minute approximate time period?
No.
So is it your understanding that those 170 steps all took place at 12:11?
No. Again, like I said, the phone is a high-tech pedometer. It doesn't mean that steps were taken. It means the phone was manipulated in a way that it believed it was moving and taking steps.
Oh, I see your objection. Yeah. Okay, so
sorry.
Yeah, let's assume there were steps for the purpose of this discussion.
Yeah.
All right, so 170 steps. So could that be John's phone registering steps because they're on a bumpy road? That would work with the state's theory. Now, obviously, between 12:11 and 12:21, so the 10 minutes, they were leaving the bar. So there would be some steps from, leaving the bar to getting in the vehicle, maybe, possibly. But 170 steps during those 10 minutes, well, what was Karen's phone doing? I'd like to know if Karen's phone was registering a similar amount of steps, because if it was, then it could be possible registering steps in a car because the road was bumpy. And if so, then potentially those 3 flights could have been accrued on John's phone going up a hill, because it would think that you were climbing flights, because there'd be forward motion and it would be registering an incline. But as this trooper testified to in direct, that was just a minute before Ryan Nagel turned up, and Ryan Nagel was there at 12:23. So those 3 minutes are crucial between 12:21 and 12:24. They're crucial as to working out who has the better theory, state or defense.
Okay, and they could have been steps, correct?
They could have been, yes,
Okay,
but
all right. So let's
no way to prove
let's
it.
assume that for now.
Okay.
Assuming there were 170 steps taken, that could have meant that John O'Keefe took 170 steps beginning at 12:11 within that time period, correct?
It's saying again, the time frame that it gave me is 12:11 to 12:21.
Right. Yeah. So in other words, he could have started walking at 12:11, correct?
Yes.
All right. But he also could have taken that 170 steps closer in time to 12:21, correct?
Well, at that point, he's in the car.
I'm not asking about where he was.
Could not have been. No.
I'm just asking about with what the data shows.
And I would say no.
If it shows 170 steps between 12:11 and 12:21, then strictly based on the data, you don't know where those 170 steps took place within that 10 minutes, correct?
To a degree, yes.
Okay. And it's possible.
Listen, I'm confused here. Does he know when these steps were taken or not? Were these 170 steps taken at 12:11 or at 12:21 or spread out throughout that entire 10 minutes? It's not a trick question. Surely the data, once you download it, you'll be able to work that out. I'm just saying.
Possible it could have been toward the beginning, toward the end, or maybe fairly evenly spaced, right? You just know that there were 170 steps that were taken in that 10-minute time frame, correct?
Again, that's assuming that they are steps.
Right. And again, I'm asking you.
So he's trying to say that they weren't steps. This was forward motion registered by the phone being in the car. But again, you have to remember that the phone is not designed to register steps when you're in a car. If you're traveling along a smooth road, you're not registering any steps. The phone is not registering steps. However, if the road is bumpy, then the phone gets confused and it does think you're walking. So it's important for the state and the defense to be clear when those steps were actually taken.
From the data itself.
Again, the phone says it's steps, doesn't mean they are.
All right. Well, the Apple Health data also showed a total of 80 steps between 12:21 and 12:24.
Correct.
How does Michelle stand on this? Is it relevant? I said at the beginning what my opinion is of this case. But for this particular live stream, I'm giving the testimony that was given at trial 1 that is going to be very relevant for trial 2 from both sides. So what the state thinks based on John O'Keefe's phone data and what the defense thinks based on John O'Keefe's phone data. So what I think is irrelevant for this particular live stream. But if you want my take on it, I'm going to say I need a thorough explanation of how John O'Keefe's injuries were sustained via a motor vehicle. Because those injuries that he sustained don't look like the effects of a motor vehicle collision to me. And the injuries on his right arm look very much like dog bites. I've got videos on that. If you go on, you have to go way back. You have to go way back in my videos to find that.
As part of your investigation of this case, were you aware that there was a 1223 text message from Ryan Nagel to Julie Nagel in which Ryan texted his sister Julie he had arrived at 34 Fairview?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently.
In any case, you would agree with me that 1223 is between 1221 and 1224, correct?
That is correct.
And that is the 1221 to 1224 time frame where the Apple Health data showed that the user of John O'Keefe's phone took 80 steps, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, John O'Keefe's Apple Health data also showed that he climbed up or down 3 flights of stairs between 1221 and 1224, correct?
Yes.
And that's the same period in which the data reflects 80 steps, correct?
It's off by about 12 seconds. It's 12:22:22. That's right, 12:24 and 22 seconds was the ending for the stamps, but 12:24 and 37 seconds.
Okay, but
Yeah.
Wait, what? No. So he's saying that 80 steps were taken between 12:21 and 12:24, but the ending of that was at 12:24. Well, that's after Ryan Nagel sees Karen outside by herself. Let's listen to that again.
in any case, you would agree with me that 1223 is between 1221 and 1224, correct?
So 1223 is the text that Ryan Nagel sent Julie Nagel saying here that he was parked outside of 34 Fairview and he could see Karen in that vehicle. That was 1223. That's hardwired into the timeline. Hardwired. That's a text timestamp. 1223 saying here. So Ryan Nagel sat outside with his eyeballs looking at Karen Reid on her own. So they'd already got there by 1223. So John could not have been accruing steps or flights climbed at 1224 if he was still in the car, because Karen Reid was stationary on her own at 1223.
That is correct.
And that is the 1221 to 1224 time frame where the Apple Health data showed that the user of John O'Keefe's phone took 80 steps, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, John O'Keefe's Apple Health data also showed that he climbed up or down 3 flights of stairs between 1221 and 1224, correct?
Yes.
And that's the same period in which the data reflects 80 steps, correct?
It's off by about 12 seconds. It's 12:22:22. That's right, 12:24 and 22 seconds was the ending for the stamps, but 12:24 and 37 seconds.
Okay, but
Yeah.
So 12:24 and 37 seconds. 12:24 and 37 seconds was the ending time for that movement. But Karen was already sitting outside of 34 Fairview by 12:23, as hardwired into the timeline by the text message that was sent by Ryan Nagel, when he was sitting outside 34 Fairview with his own very own eyeballs, actually looking at Karen Reid. So, doesn't look good for the state's timeline, does it?
Approximately,
Yes.
All right. And regarding going up and down those 3 floors, Apple does not provide data precise enough to determine when within that range the 3 floors were transversed, correct?
No.
Yeah, this is Trooper Greeno, yeah.
There was a second point at 12:22 and 14 seconds that had specifically on stairs.
So 12:22 and some seconds is specifically on stairs. But yet the 12:24 and 37 seconds is the end of the movement of the phone, But again, Karen Reid was already parked outside, stationary, on her own by 12:23.
Okay, and you would agree with me that, and again, assuming that they were stairs as Apple Health data reflects, those stairs could have been ascended or descended toward the beginning, toward the end.
They have to be ascended. They have to be ascended. People get this wrong all the time. They have to be ascended because it's measuring an incline, which is going up. It's the forward movement plus the change in barometric pressure as you're going up.
Or throughout that 3-minute time period, correct?
In this case, no, because there's a set point that's in the Cellbrite report that shows it's 12:22 and 14 seconds.
All right. Finally, his Apple Health data also showed a total of 36 steps between 12:31:56 and 12:32:16, correct?
So how many steps?
So I would like to direct your attention to your main.
I've gone too far forward there.
In any case, you would agree with me that 12:23 is between 12:21.
What? Why have I gone completely off here?
And which is approximately a little over a half mile from 34 Fairview. Did I read that a section?
What am I doing here? Where was I at?
Approximately.
Approximately, yes.
All right. And regarding going up and down those 3 floors, Apple does not provide data precise enough to determine when within that range the 3 floors were transversed, correct?
No.
There was a second point at 12:22 and 14 seconds that had specifically on stairs.
Okay. And you would agree with me that, and again, assuming that they were stairs as Apple Health data reflects, those stairs could have been ascended or descended toward the beginning, toward the end, or throughout that 3-minute time period, correct?
In this case, no, because there's a set point that's in the Cellbrite report that shows it's 12:22 and 14 seconds.
Yeah, but you can't climb 3 flights of stairs within 1 second, can you? So the 12:22 and some seconds either has to be the beginning of the ascending or at the end of the ascending. You can't climb 3 flights of stairs within the same second. I think that's what Inetti's getting at there.
All right. Finally, his Apple Health data also showed a total of 36 steps.
36 steps.
Between 12:31:56 and 12:32:16, correct?
So 36 steps in a few seconds. And then I think the phone stops moving after that.
Yes, that is correct.
All right. So I would like to direct your attention to your May 9th, 2023 report, which is the second report that you wrote that we've already referenced.
Yes, sir.
Specifically paragraph 15.
Okay.
You wrote that O'Keefe's health data in Celebrite shows him ascending, descending 3 flights of stairs at 12:22 and 14 seconds. Did I read that accurately?
Yes, sir.
And the native locations in Celebrite and the cached locations in Axiom both show O'Keefe's phone location by the intersection of Oakdale Road and Pinecone Road, which is in front of 36 Oakdale, and which is approximately a little over a half mile from 34 Fairview. Did I read?
All right. So he's put. So he's saying. So Oakdale Road and Pinecone Road. So Oakdale Road's here. Somewhere. Can't find it now. There's Oakdale. Where's Pinecone? There's Pinecone. Okay. So that's where his report says that those 3 flights of stairs were climbed at 12:22 and a handful of seconds. There is a hill there. There is a hill. You can't really see it on the map, honestly. But it is going up a hill. You really can't see it on the map. You really can't see on the map. But if you look at the elevation change, this whole area is hilly. This whole area is hilly. But again, you have to go from here to here in less than a minute to be sat outside stationary by 12:23. So how are you going to get from here to here? So you have to turn round, come back down, come round, and go down there. And then she's on her own in the car when Ryan Nagel sees her at 12:23. So where's John? Where's John? Where am I at here? Okay.
Is that essentially correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you stand by the statement that he?
No, if you throw your phone, it doesn't register steps. It could register one step as it lands, I guess. Maybe, possibly.
Ascended and descended 3 flights of stairs precisely at 12:22 and 14 seconds.
I'm going by what Celebrate has given me from that time point, and that's what I used.
Isn't it true that what the Apple Health data actually state is that John O'Keefe's phone went up and down 3 flights of stairs sometime within the time period that began at 12:22:14 and ended at 12:24:37?
I can't speak to it. I don't know. This is what, again, I'm looking at the report.
Well, that makes more sense. You can't go up 3 flights of stairs in less than a second. So that end point, 12:24 and 37 seconds, is what he said just a few minutes ago as the end point of the movement, that particular movement. So that makes more sense that you're going to climb 3 flights between 12:22 and 14 seconds and 12:24 and 37 seconds. That makes more sense that it was over a 2-minute time period. But again, that 2-minute time period has to have been after Karen's car arrived at 34 Fairview, because Ryan Nagel at 12:23 was parked right outside and could see Karen Reid. So John had to be in the house by 12:23. So the phone starting registering flights climbed at 12:22 and 14 seconds makes absolute sense. John had already gone in the house. So it's not registering those flights climbed, even if the road's really bumpy, half a mile away, is it? No.
Or this is what the information that is parsed out of the phone is giving me.
Right. I'm just asking about the data itself. It gives you that time period and tells you 3 flights of stairs, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. Assuming that those 3 flights of stairs were ascended or descended closer in time to 12:22:14, which was within that time period, that would still give him time to arrive at 34 Fairview within a couple minutes later, would it not?
I'm sorry, the time.
Yeah, so we have a time period that you've agreed with, which is 12:24:14, ending at 12:24:37, right? A little over a couple of minutes, like 2 minutes and 23 seconds?
Yeah, about that.
All right. So the 3 flights of stairs, again, just according to the data, could have been ascended or descended at the start of that time period, correct?
No. I'm confused what you're trying to say. So you're saying that he's at the house already at 12:22?
I'm not asking about the house. I'm asking about the data.
No, I know, but I'm asking about when you're saying he arrives in that data range.
No, what I'm.
It's not a trick question. He's already answered. Unetti's clarifying. He's already answered that the start of that time period started at 12:22 and 14 seconds and ended at 12:24 and 37 seconds. So that's in his own report. Unetti's reading from Guerrero's own report. And now he thinks it's a trick question. It's like, no, look at the data. This is what the data tells us.
I'm confused.
I'm strictly asking you just to look at the data.
Yeah.
And you agree with me, whenever there's a time period in Apple Health terms, either steps or stairs, you can't pinpoint just from the data when they occurred within that time period, correct?
Objection. Your Honor, maybe helpful if counsel could refer to which data he's talking about and not just keep saying. All I'm hearing is data.
You did. Apple Health data, steps and stairs. That's what we're talking about, Adam. Keep up. Adam Lolly just can't keep up.
Do you know which data Mr. Unetti's referring to specifically?
I'm slightly confused. I know you said that time frame that I wrote in my report for that 12:21 to 12:24, and then as I stated,
So we're talking about 12:22 and 14 seconds to 12:24 and 37 seconds from your own report.
before, Celebrate shows a specific time point of 12:22 and 14 seconds when the stairs are ascended, descended. So that's
No, from when it starts. You can't descend you can't descend stairs anyway. That's not going to show up as flights climbed. Let's be clear. But you can't climb 3 flights of stairs in less than a second.
That's why I'm confused.
Right, we're going to get to that, but
Okay.
I'm not asking you about that. I'm asking you about the fact that there's a time period and you can't place where within that time period, just based on that data itself.
Yeah, that's what's recorded and shown to me. So again, that's what it's shown. I can't say otherwise.
Your conclusion was that John O'Keefe could not have been at 34 Fairview Road at 12:22 and 14 seconds because Waze put him on Oakdale Road about a half mile away, correct?
All right. So this is really interesting. This is the explanation of why the state thinks that they arrived at 12:24 and why the defense thinks they got there at 12:21. We know they were there by 12:23. So my guess is that the defense is right here. And we know absolutely they were there by 12:23 because Ryan Nagel's text is hardwired into the timeline, that he sent his text as clarified by him himself. He sent his text at 12:23. That's in the metadata of that text, sitting outside of 34 Fairview where he could see Karen Reid. So I'm thinking that the defense is right here, that this is 12. We're talking about the arrival time of 12:21. However, this discussion about the different clocks inside an Apple iPhone, this is the bit that I completely skipped over in trial 1 that I just found this morning when reviewing this testimony and thought, wow, how did I miss this? How did I miss this? Because this is really relevant to other cases, potentially. This is really relevant to potentially the Delphi case or any other case where we're looking at very fine timelines, you know, every minute counts when things happened. So there's different clocks inside of an Apple iPhone. Let's listen to this explanation, and I'll be looking out for this in trial 2. I really hope that they really dig into this in trial 2 because this is going to be really interesting.
12, yes, correct.
All right. And that caused you to disregard the Apple Health data or to attribute it not to steps or to stairs because he was a half mile away between that 12:22 and 12:24 time period, correct?
Yes, I attribute it to movement.
All right. So I want you to assume for a moment, Trooper, that John O'Keefe's phone location actually showed him on Oakdale Road 3 minutes earlier at 12:19 a.m. Okay, if you have that in mind?
You okay?
All right. With that assumption, would you agree with me that the Apple Health data about him taking 80 steps and climbing up or down 3 floors at 34 Fairview Road would make more sense.
Objection.
Sustain.
May we approach, Your Honor?
Sure.
Sidebar. It's only a short sidebar. Adam Lally doesn't like this. Adam Lally doesn't like this. Those marks on John O'Keefe's arm are absolutely dog bites. They're a combination of dog bites and dog scratches. Absolutely, 100%. That's why I think Karen is innocent. It's the main reason I think Karen is innocent, is that the injuries to John O'Keefe do not, absolutely do not, in any way show what you would expect injuries to look like from a pedestrian being hit by a Lexus SUV at 24 miles an hour, even if it's a side swipe. That the fact that the only injuries to his body were to his right arm and his head, not consistent whatsoever with being hit by a motor vehicle. Even if it's a side swipe, you would expect bruising to occur at the site of the collision. So, you know, the state has said, well, you know, it's the cocktail glass that has caused these scratches and things on his arm. Well, there'd be glass in the cuts. And then they go, oh, well, it's the tail light. Well, okay, if it's the tail light, how on earth did it impact his arm to scratch it and fling him up into the air? And fling it up into the air so that he cracked his head and died without leaving any bruising. Doesn't make sense, sorry.
Are you aware that apps on an iPhone may pull data from 3 different clocks when they're timestamping location data?
I did not know this. I swear down, I must have been, I don't know what I was doing in trial 1, because I remember this testimony. I remember listening to this testimony, thinking this is really interesting, and I completely glazed over it. I don't know. I just, my mind wanders and stuff. So there's 3 different clocks within an iPhone that apps draw their timestamps from. I did not know that.
You mean like Mac absolute time or Apple
I'm
Cocoa
asking
time?
you, are you aware?
Multiple timestamps that are in an iPhone, correct?
That's not my question. My question was, are you aware that an app on an iPhone may pull data by choosing from 3 different clocks when it timestamps location data?
Yes.
What are those 3 separate clocks?
Depends on the program. It could be the Mac absolute time. It could be the Unix epoch time. And sorry, there's like 2 others. I don't remember them all off the top of my head.
With regard to John O'Keefe's actual iPhone, did you research what clocks were available for apps to pull data from?
No, I didn't.
Are you aware that those 3 clocks can vary in time?
Yes.
Sometimes for a matter of seconds.
What do you mean? So
In other words, the 3 clocks could be seconds apart, correct?
I would have to see the data.
And you would agree with me that
But you've seen it. You've prepared a report on it. You've seen that data. You've. What are you saying? I'd have to see the data. Well, you've seen the data. You've done the report. You're the one that's testifying about John O'Keefe's phone data.
sometimes the clocks could be off by 3 minutes, correct?
No, again, I would have to see the data.
May I approach?
Yes. Mr. Lally, did you get a chance to look at that?
No.
Adam Lally just looks really pissed off throughout the entire trial. Adam Lally just looks really pissed off.
Okay, Trooper, I'm going to place this before you and ask you to review it, directing your attention specifically to what is marked process 3434.
Okay. Okay.
Do you see the process 3434 highlighted in blue on what I've placed before you?
Yes, sir.
And with regard to the right side of that exhibit, do you also see process 3434 with more information on the right side?
Yes.
And do you see the 3 different clocks that are listed on that printout?
I do.
What are those 3 different clocks?
Sorry, it's a bit blurry. Monotonic date time, baseband date time, and then display date time.
And looking at that, and by the way, do you recognize that as being information that was available from John O'Keefe's phone from the extraction?
Yes.
I would offer that as an exhibit, Your Honor.
Any objection, Mr. Lally?
No, Your Honor.
What are we going to call that, Mr. Yannetti? How are we going to refer to that?
It could be called, you know, a printout regarding 3434.
Okay.
Or printout from John O'Keefe's phone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now you have exhibit 640 in front of you, sir. Looking at 640, is it clear to you that those 3 clocks were not in sync regarding that one process number?
Yes.
In fact, the monotonic clock regarding this particular Waze artifact from John O'Keefe's phone says 2:22 a.m., while the baseband and display clocks have timestamps 3 minutes earlier, correct?
Yes.
So if there's a 3-minute difference between the clocks, well, strike that. Do you know, with regard to that 2:22 a.m. location data on Waze, do you know which clock Waze was using for that? Or the iPhone was using with Waze?
I don't. Didn't look through Axiom. I was using Cellbrite for that.
Okay.
But it's just told you. It's just told you. Right. So the Waze app was using one of the clocks on the iPhone that was 3 minutes faster than the actual time. So the Waze app was saying that they got there at 12:24, when actually they got there at 12:21. And that would fit with what was going on in the real world, i.e. that Ryan Nagel at 12:23 saw Karen Reid sitting stationary outside 34 Fairview with John O'Keefe nowhere to be seen. It would also put the time that they say that John O'Keefe was on the road actually 3 minutes earlier. And it would mean that they arrived at 34 Fairview at 12:21, and therefore all of that movement, the 80 steps and the 3/4 climbed between 12:22 and 14 seconds and 12:24 and 37 seconds, when they'd already arrived, when John was inside, or at least his phone was, rather than them being half a mile away, as the state is wanting the jury to believe. My problem, though, and I'm going to end on this, my problem is with how this data was presented. Because this data is difficult to get your head around. As perfectly exampled by me, that I completely missed this the first time round. even though I'm interested in, all the testimonies about phone data, it's one of I'm not an expert by any means, shape or form. I want to learn though. And that's why I'm really interested in this kind of testimony. And it's relevant to so many cases. But I completely missed that testimony. Like, I watched it. I remember watching it. I must have glazed over. Something happened. Maybe I was doing something else and, listening. And then I was distracted. I did not pick up on the fact that there's 3 clocks and the Waze app was using the clock that was 3 minutes faster than the actual time. If I missed it, what if the jury missed it? And it's one of those hardwired, like the actual time is hardwired into any timeline, the actual time. So if you can find data points that show an actual time to the second, then you can prove or disprove any theory that uses that timeline. So I'll end on this, that it seems very likely that the state's theory of what happened is incorrect because they made a mistake. I'm not saying they did it on purpose. I'm saying they made a mistake and they assumed that the Waze app was telling the right time when actually it wasn't. It was 3 minutes faster than the real world. So what I would like to see is this broken down in pieces that are so tiny, like an ant could eat it. I need this stuff broken down in a way that the jury cannot possibly misunderstand or glaze over. Because if I glazed over it, then you can guarantee that the jury, at least some of the jury, would have glazed over as well. And remember, the jury don't have the benefit of being able to play something back. You can think, oh, that was really interesting, and play back a couple of minutes. The jury can't do that. The jury have got to listen to witness after witness after witness. And this was really towards the end of the trial. Well, what date was this? The testimony from here was June 20th. So the jury have been listening day after day after day to different witnesses, and it's difficult to listen and to comprehend for really intricate data that you're talking about seconds. You're talking about seconds that matter, and in a really tight timeline like this, every second matters. So I think in my head now I've clarified those 3 minutes between 12:21 and 12:24, the discrepancy between the state thinking that they arrived at 12:24 because that's the time on the Waze app, but the Waze app was using a clock that was actually 3 minutes wrong. It was 3 minutes fast, and the actual time that they arrived, in the real world, was actually 12:21, which fits with Ryan Nagel seeing Karen on her own outside of 34 Fairview at 12:23. And Ryan Nagel did not see John because John was already inside. And at that time, his phone was moving. His phone between 12:22 and 14 seconds and 12:24 and 37 seconds, it made 80 steps and climbed 3 flights. That doesn't necessarily mean John was, but his phone was. What if John got inside and there was an instant fight? And then they didn't mean to kill him, right? They didn't mean to kill him, but it happened. And then they start panicking. And that's why the phone did all those rapid movements up and down, up 3 flights of stairs, because they're panicking. So what they do is they take his phone, they make a snap judgment and think, right, we'll take his phone out to the, end of the driveway, not the driveway, this place. Hold on. they take his phone to the flagpole and they say, when everybody's gone, we'll dump his body so that people think he got hit by the snowplow, because they know that the snowplow will be passing by because they're at the beginning of a blizzard. So John being hit by a snowplow would have been a complete accident. So they dump his phone there, knowing full well that, you know, his phone data will be looked at because, you know, they're all cops in there. Like Brian Albert's a cop, Higgins works for the cops, right? So they know that they've got to be able to explain this easily. So run out of the back way, dump his phone here. And that's why it doesn't move after 12:32, I think it is. And then they move his body to here sometime in the night. I don't know. That's what the data suggests to me. That fits the data better than the state's theory. So a lot like the Delphi case, that the state's theory gets broken by Libby's phone data. So I'm assuming that the Apple's own apps, like the Apple Health data, uses real time. But I have to look into it all now, like the 3 clocks inside an Apple iPhone. Like, why is there 3 different clocks? Why do they need 3 different clocks? Why don't they just have 1 clock that would, like, that all apps draw from? That would make it easier, wouldn't it? I don't know. But you see, Apple's secret sauce, we're not allowed to know. So, you know, even the phone experts who give testimony don't really know how Apple iPhones work. So it's understandable when they make mistakes. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing these things on purpose. You know, this trooper could have genuinely believed that they had to have arrived there at 12:24 because that's what the Waze app tells them. Actually, what he didn't realize is the Waze app was using a clock that's 3 minutes fast. Interesting, isn't it? Really interesting. All right, so on that note, I'm gonna let you go. So very interesting. All right, guys, I'm gonna go and live my life now. You go and enjoy the rest of your day, and let's have a look. Thanks everybody. So we got Ozzy and Purple AJ gifting 15 memberships between them. Ozzy 5 and Purple AJ 10 early on, and Canoni's Baloney gifting $4.99. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks as always to the mods, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.